So welcome to our game today. We're looking at a game between Magnus Carlsen and Hans Harestad, and this is when Magnus was 12 years of age, and he really displayed the qualities that were needed for him to become world champion. He shows deep opening knowledge, great positional sense, unbelievable tactical vision, and wait till you see some of the sacrifices. A couple of brilliant moves, sacrificing pieces to get the checkmate. Now, the fireworks really begin from move 30 in this game, so what we'll just do is we'll run through the beginning, the opening, which was a closed Roy Lopez position, which is all Grandmaster opening knowledge, all the way up until move number 14. After Magnus played a4, normally the move that's played here at the master level is rook to b8, but Harstad decided to play rook to a7, which is a variation that is not very often seen. So here Magnus played knight to f1, wanting to bring over his knight to the kingside to g3. Then we get g6. Magnus plays bishop, attacking to h6, attacking the rook. We get rook. Then we get knight to g3, knight to d7, knight to h2 by Magnus. We get pawn f6, bishop e3, knight to b6, attacking the pawn, and also maybe hoping into jump into the c4 square. We get a5, a takes b5, and then bishop to d3. We get bishop to d7, queen d2, just combining the two rooks together. We get knight to f7, rook to a7, queen captures back, then we get queen e2. And so just a few more positional moves, and then we see the really exciting sacrifices and tactical vision that Magnus has. So we get queen to a6, somewhat surprisingly pinning the pawn to himself there, Harestad, but you can understand the reasoning. Now Magnus plays g4 here, and then we get king to g7, and Magnus plays bishop to c1, with the idea, of course, that he is trying to protect this square, but maybe he's thinking about getting a bit of a battery here with the queen, which we'll see in a minute. We get knight to a4, we get bishop back to c2, rook a8, and then queen e3. Now we get this battery up along here, and after c4 is played, we see rook to f1 by Magnus, knight to c5, hoping to maybe get himself a nice little outpost on the light squares by Harstad. And here's where the fireworks begin. We get knight to h6 by Magnus. Now, of course, if you decided to take here by Harstad, you'd just be inviting Magnus attack in and maybe pushing the pawn up, maybe playing f4 and trying to open up along here. So you can see what Magnus is doing here. But instead, we see that Harstad plays knight to g5. Now, knight to g5 is, that's a good move because the knight is protected, and this knight is now under threat of being captured. So what does Magnus do here? Well, Magnus plays f4. And of course, if you decided to take the knight, you would then have to face up with the fact of a check, and not a very pleasant position to play. So f4 is played, so we get e takes f4, and then we get queen takes f4. And after, here is the beginning of the end and the beginning of the beauty of Magnus's game. So can you see what Harstad saw here? Is there something that you can find? Because there's a very cute tactic here that Harstad played, and that is bishop takes h3, because he's thinking, well, it's a free pawn. Why is it a free pawn? Because of this cute tactic. If you take the bishop back, boom, you get your queen forked with your king by the knight. So it's a free pawn, and also you have to remember that the knight is under attack. So what would you play here, knowing that you can't capture the bishop back? Well, here Magnus plays queen to h4, protecting the knight, also attacking um, the bishop, because it cannot stay there because it's no longer the fork. So we see d7 by Harstad. Now here Magnus shows unbelievable tactical vision because he plays a simply a beautiful quiet move, a move that you wouldn't really think does much, but when you see the outcome afterwards, it's truly beautiful. And you see the move that he plays here? Well, he plays the very simple, the very quiet e5. Now, if we look on our our screen. What's he thinking here? Well, he's thinking my bishops are controlling these squares. My rook is controlling this square. My queen's controlling here, and my knight. So he's got a lot of control all over the board. So he's opening up everything for the attack. And in fact, um, the computer encourages really for the knight to be played here to block off the scope of this bishop. But Harestad doesn't play that to his detriment. So we see d takes e5. Now, can we see our first brilliant move here by Magnus Carlsen? I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can find it. But the first brilliant move that he plays here is, did you find it? Knight to e5 check. Now he's got two knights hanging. So what does Harestad do? Well, Harestad takes back with the pawn. What was the reason for that? Why did he do that? Well, now we see. Wait till you see this brilliant move. He plays queen to g5, check, sacking the queen. Why does he sack the queen? Can you see it? Well, it's actually checkmate in two. Can you see the sequence? From here, we get pawn takes, f takes g5, and we get check, sacrificing his knight, and can you see, only place to go because of this combination is check and mate. And Magnus Carlsen, as a 12-year-old, showing his super ability and the reason why he would become a multiple world champion.